a beautiful homemade quiche is going to make the perfect Sunday lunch. Let me show you how I did it. Well, I decided quiche sounded like a good lunch for tomorrow, so I'm going to put together a quiche Lorraine, and I'm going to start by building the tart crust. So in my measuring cup, I have 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, ½ teaspoon of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and a tablespoon of grated Parmesan. And add that in. Put a little pulse in my food processor just to mix those dry ingredients. And then I'm going to add in 1 stick of cold butter that I've cubed up. And I'm going to pulse that 6 or 8 times until it is kind of a sandy, coarse texture. Okay, and then now that I've got that to a good coarse texture, I'm going to add in, I have mixed together in my bowl an egg yolk and about a tablespoon of ice cold water. I'm going to add that in while I'm pulsing it, I hope. And you can see how it's starting to come together crumbly. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want a tough crust, you want a tender crust. So here's how you check to see if you've got enough liquid in your crust. You want to be able to squeeze it together and it holds its shape. Then you know you're good to go. So I'm going to gather all this into a dough ball, kind of make it into a hard disc and put it in the fridge for about ½ an hour so it can rest before we put it into our tart pan. Okay, I let my dough sit in the fridge for about ½ an hour. I've dusted my counter with some flour, and I'm dusting my disc and my rolling pin with some flour, and I'm just going to roll it out to fit in my tart pan. You can use a regular pie plate for this if you want to. Either way is going to work just fine. Okay, I have my tart pan ready. It doesn't have to be perfect. Think of it like when you played with Play-Doh as a kid. If there's a tear, put a piece of dough in it, smash it down, you'll be good to go. I'm gonna put this back in the freezer for 15 minutes. I'm going to let my oven preheat to 375, and then I'm going to blind bake it for 15 minutes. Then we'll talk about the filling. Okay, so now that my crust is done, I'm gonna mix together the filling. So I have in my bowl 3 large eggs, and I'm going to add 2 cups of heavy cream. Okay, and to that I'm going to whisk in about a ½ teaspoon each of salt and black pepper, and then just a dash of nutmeg. That's probably too much pepper. This is going to be fine. Okay, and that makes the custard filling. Now, we are putting bacon that I have cooked until it's crispy and chopped it up. I'm gonna add some of my garlic chives from my garden. This is kind of one of those Cooper Farmstead meals if I'm thinking about it. I cured and smoked the bacon. We used eggs from our chickens. I grew the garlic chives that we're using. I just milled the flour that we used for the crust. So a lot of this is just from our home, and I love that. I love that we have that option. So let's put it together. Do you notice I have this sitting in a pan, in a pan, in a pan? Because it's a whole lot easier to transfer this to the stove in another dish, because a tart pan, the bottom lifts out so you can set it on a pretty serving tray. So trust me, put it in a dish before you start filling it. So I'm gonna add all my bacon to the bottom. Spread it around so nobody gets all the bacon and nobody's left with none. I'm gonna add my garlic chives. And then I just have a mixture of cheese that I'm gonna put in. I'm gonna add some provolone, I'm gonna add some mozzarella, and I'm gonna add some Parmesan, because that sounds yummy. And then once I get all that in, I'll dump our custard on top. We'll bake it at 375 for probably about 35 minutes. And then it'll be done. The oven's ready. That's impeccable timing. Okay, as you're pouring, pour slow, and if you think it's getting full, then stop, because you don't want it to overflow. You'd rather have a little bit that you can do in a ramekin than pour this and it go everywhere. Okay, our quiche is done. I can't even tell you how good this smells. I've got some provolone chopped up that I'm gonna put on top and let it melt, and then we are gonna have this beauty for lunch right after church. So have a great day.